Why did that social uprising happen? Since the 91, since 91, and the economical opening under the Gaviria government, this was the beginning of a huge process of privatization through which big sector of the economy were dismantled. Unions have been struggling more and more in the streets to face this kind of situation, because we had to face that economical because those were repressive and regressive policies that were imposed by the governments one by one. And so we had to increase mobilization. So the coup, in our case, nationally, we had to work together with other unions to face those policies. Not just unionists, but any person who would oppose the policy of the government would be victim of assassination, forced disappearance. Many people have been in exile. Many people have been living under threat. We've been stigmatized. To go fast through history, on October 4th, 2019, we managed to have 1,000 delegates in an assembly with several social organizations, human rights, peasants, Afro students, representatives. And this is when we actually organized what's been then called Comité Nacional de Paro, National Strike Committee. And we made a call for a first mobilization on November 21st, 2019. And this mobilization was way bigger than what we had expected. And this is when we realized that people were craving for going to the streets, because people stayed mobilized during several days. We just had called for one day, but it went on for several days. And that process was increasing when the pandemic happened, and we kind of lost that impulse, right? We were all confined. And so it's until 2021, we managed to make a new call for a mass mobilization. It was because in February 2021, the national government announced a terrible tax reform that was a direct attack to middle class and lower wage income families. So at that moment in 2021, we already had a regional strike committee and a national strike committee. And this is when we agreed on April 28th. This is how, at 5 a.m. on April 28th, we went on strike. This is how in Cali we started that process of resistance with up to 36 resistance points. And the community joined massively. With all the restrictions that were still on, right? Because we were still facing some sanitary measures. But anyway, people took the street. Whether with or without pandemic, people felt they needed to take the streets. It gave us strength because we saw that the youth were there with their own flags. The majority of the workers, even if they're supposedly employed, are informal workers. So they have no contracts, no guarantees, not any social service, health, education. In a few days of mobilization, we were able to make the government withdraw the tax reform. What we saw here in the Valley of Cauca, it was a kind of regional coup, military coup, because in the first days of the mobilization, the mayor could not exert his role, and the military kind of started to replace him. That's how we saw the militarization. And it's in the midst of that situation that so many people were murdered, criminalized, prosecuted. So this is why we had to defend the right to mobilize, the right of the people to refuse a dictatorship, a fascist dictatorship, which is what is that government. So from April 28th to June 13th, in the resistance point, we were there. So 1 year after, we can still see that people are still being arrested or people are still being murdered. So we're committed to the defense of human rights. And we demand to the government to give guarantees so that we can keep on working as human rights defenders. Because defending human rights in Colombia became a tragedy.